from 2008 to 2018, the amount of sexlessness among men under the age of 30 has doubled. So in 2008, 15% of men under age 30 reported not having sex in the past year. And by 2018, it had doubled to about 30%. And for women, it increased slightly. It was something like 10% in 2008 to like 15% in 2018. So there was a slight increase. But for men, it has doubled to the point where about 1 in 3 young men are reporting that they haven't had sex in the past year, which is a very new thing.
Despite the mating apps.
Right, despite the apps, despite even more support supposedly for sexual freedom and for polyamory and novel relationship arrangements and the further sort of devaluing of the importance of sex, more people are having less of it, men and women, but especially young men.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that's damn near epidemic in Japan. So
what's happening?
A tremendous number of young men in Japan are falling into that category. And in fact, this society has become increasingly sexless, even among young people. I mean, that's reflected to some degree in the declining birth rate. But now, it's been a long time since I looked at the statistics, but that's my understanding. And so if it happened there, it's not surprising that it might happen here. And that might be a consequence, too, of this emergent polygamy that we were describing, is that all the spoils are going to a very few men. Of course, there's also the effect of pornography, which is a substitute, and that's also, I don't know much about the literature on pornography use and the relationship between it and actual sexual activity. I have read some ominous things about the increase in failure to achieve erections among young men, that at least in principle is a consequence of pornography use, but I don't know how reliable that is.
Data that married men are more likely to experience divorce if they watch any amount of pornography, and it's sort of the more pornography they use, the more likely they are to get divorced. I think that this is another. I mean, this is a very recent invention too, sort of streaming digital pornography. I've heard that researchers are having difficulty even studying this simply because they can't really find a control group. There's no young men who don't watch porn, at least have never not been exposed to it, and so this is a very difficult thing for them to even study.
Well, it's another indication of the emergence of polygamy, because it's virtual polygamy. You can have an unlimited number of attractive sexual partners. Now it's all virtual,
right?
But that is a transformative technology. I mean you can see more pictures of nude women in one day than anybody in history would have ever seen in their entire life.
Yeah, and I see this, the consequences of this, how young people interact now, where there's even these contests to see how long they can go without watching it, almost like it's a game. These sort of communities on Reddit or on social media where they'll sort of try to go for a month or go for 90 days or whatever without watching it. At first, I think it starts as a game, no FAP. And they're trying to, I think, on the one hand, it's sort of a game for them. It's a contest. But on the other hand, I think there is this underlying, beneath this sort of joking around about it, I think there is this view that like, this probably isn't good for us. And let's see if we can get off of it. Let's see if we can stop. And I don't see like how this isn't changing people. I mean, I feel very fortunate because I came of age just before, fast internet and all of this stuff had started taking off, like right before YouTube, all of this stuff. And I can imagine that if I was if I was 13 and all of this stuff had existed today, like I'm sure it would be warping my brain in one way or another. I mean, between the internet, between social media, and then of course the digital porn and the endless images. I don't know how like very young boys are dealing with this new technology.
Well, it's very difficult for society to structure itself around monogamous norms. That took a lot of work. And when that's taken apart, it's not at all obvious how to put it back together. So, and it does appear that we're seeing the consequences of that. The consent issue on campus, I think, is extraordinarily interesting because it isn't what you would have expected. It isn't what anybody predicted, right? We thought with the relaxation of sexual norms that there would be this possibility that sex could become casual. And there is an insistence. It's so strange to watch, and this is associated with your luxury belief item or idea. On the one hand, we have this absolute insistence by the progressive types, essentially, especially, that any and all form of sexual expression is not only acceptable, but to be celebrated, no matter what the form is. And on the other hand, we have this insistence that sex is so dangerous that the culture is best conceptualized as a rape culture, and that every step of sexual interaction between a young man and a young woman needs to be documented, like formally and perhaps even in writing, because that has been proposed at some universities. And so there's this perversity about the twin insistence, right? It's all forms of sexual expression are laudable and freeing, right, yet it's so dangerous that every bit of it has to be documented, and the fundamental orienting structure is something like rape.